Thank you so much, Ayo. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. We do business for just about 30 minutes and head back to the Sunrise Daily studios. We begin from the global space, telling you about oil prices. After a lot of movement this week around the oil prices, we saw it was a little changed on Friday, but it's on track to end the week lower as downward revisions to U.S. employment data raised concerns over demand and renewed ceasefire talks in Gaza, also eased worries about supply disruptions. With an eye on the number, just a little bit of change that we see, 0.01% in the red is what we have for Brent at $77.32 a barrel. WTI also at the same level of change, 0.01 at $73.11 a barrel. And of course, both benchmark hit their lowest since January this week after the U.S. government sharply lowered its estimate of jobs added by employers in the country all through the year since March. And that sparks concerns about a potential recession in the United States, hurting demand in top oil-consuming nation. But some analysts say that's an overreaction. We know that the possibility of recession in the United States has been lowered, I think, to about 25%. Now, recent data also from China, which is a top oil importer, has pointed to a struggling economy and slowing oil demand from refiners there. A renewed push for ceasefire in Gaza between Israel and Hamas has also helped to ease worry supply and weighed on prices. U.S. and Israeli delegations started a new round of meetings in Cairo on Thursday yesterday to resolve differences over a truce proposal. And then we look at the Naira. See, depreciation is what we recorded yesterday on NAFEM. We see that it's gained 1.98%. That for NAFEM, and the close at 1,339.96. While for NAFEM, it is on the flip side. Now let's talk about the CIBN, for instance. They're having their own conference later on next month, and they held a press conference yesterday to put that together. 17th Annual Banking and Finance Conference of the Chartered Institute of Bankers is underway, and the organizing committee, as well as other executive members of the body, are sharing information with the aim of attracting interested participants. With the theme, Accelerated Economic Growth and Development, the State of Play and the Way Forward, a special interaction of the youth has also been infused into the lineup of events.
We know that we've been plagued by the issue of Java syndrome. So we'd like to move from Java to Japan. And that dinner will be a center stage for that interaction. I'm going to showcase Nigerian youths that have done very well. They will be there to provide insights, to provide opportunities that it is still the smart choice to be in Nigeria. And Nigeria is still, anywhere you are, this is the country that has blessed the most in the whole world.
CIBN is promising that while conversations at the conference will be engaging and interesting, they intend to go beyond the talks.
Under this present dispensation, rather than just keeping a distance, because we just submit to them and we go back. We don't want to submit this conference. I can bet it with you, after that, we will go to the ministry that affected those decisions, those communiques, and which are the outcome of the discussion. We will take it to the appropriate ministries and make sure that we have an engagement. CIBN has a compendium of all the issues that were decided in the last conference and how far we have gone implementing them. We have that because when I was appointed the chairman of the committee, I asked for that. I wanted to know what was the outcome of the previous conference. And the registrar advised me with that talk. And I was really impressed that they really have in each of those items what has been achieved.
The 17th Annual Banking and Finance Conference is scheduled for September 10 and 11, 2024. Well, that's CIBN there. We have to apologize. The numbers you saw on the screen earlier for the Naira was obviously not for today. So for yesterday, we saw the close of Naira. On NAFEM, the Naira lost more than 2%, almost 3%. 2.74%, opened at 1,543 naira 84 kobo, but closed at 1,586 naira 11 kobo. That's on NAFEM. On NAFEX, it also dropped, but much lower. 0.28% is what it lost. That's the value of the naira. Opened at 1,592 naira 38 kobo, but closed at 1,596 naira 85 kobo for a dollar. I know we do pray for when the naira will get to about 1,003, but this is our reality for now. So we apologize for that. Wrong number sent from the crew inside. Now, yesterday, the dual-listed indigenous energy firm Oando PLC has successfully completed the acquisition of the Nigerian Ajib Oil Company from Italian energy firm Eni. The $783 million deal was signed earlier in the British capital and marks a significant milestone in Oando's long-term strategy to expand its upstream operations and strengthen its position in the nation's oil and gas sector. Now, let's talk about this and some other development in that space as well as in Nigeria with the CEO of Finance with Mukhtar, Mr. Mukhtar Mohammed, joins us virtually from Lagos. Mr. Mohammed, good morning and thank you for your time.
A pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we see this, a big step, obviously, and we expect, of course, that this will. We've seen O&O in the last few days moving the markets. They've been doing well since last week, even though there's a bit of, cherry picking also intermittently. But I wonder what this will do to the oil and gas counter with this major move.
Yeah, thank you, I think it's going to be a good move for the oil and gas sector. Finally, an indigenous firm, we want to be a big player. Remember, we don't have so much indigenous firms that are big players in that space. Although Seplat can come in as one, so Oando is now coming in with the kind of asset they're acquiring. I think it's a very big news, especially for the Nigerian oil and gas sector. Again, I have my own reservation when it comes to acquisition. Some years ago, this was the kind of boast we had when Oando also acquired Kokonoko Phillips, or at that time, and all of us were saying it's going to be a game changer. And at the end of the day, it became what dragged the company down. But hopefully, I hope they've learned their lesson this time. Due diligence was done, and this acquisition have taken place. So for the oil and gas sector in Nigeria, I think this is going to be a game changer because, again, we are now seeing two very strong companies listed in the exchange. One of them is Oando, then we have Seplat, and not just the marketing arm like what we see in the multinational like Total is just the marketing arm that is listed. So this time around, we are seeing a full host company, upstream, downstream, exploitation, and everything listed in the market, like what we see in Seplat. And so that's what is responsible for the kind of movement you are seeing in Oando for some few days now.
Well, I'm glad you brought that in, the upstream, the downstream now captured, because, when an average Nigerian hears this news, what they will ask is, so does it bring petrol to the filling station? Will it remove the queues that we are still seeing for over a week now? How can we expect this to seep in to the daily living and operations of Nigerians?
Well, we will talk about some of the queue, Edie. I think from the news we had yesterday, Oando itself as a company has exited the retail sector of the company because at the point we thought they were out there. But again, after the news from the former vice president and them saying that Oando has acquired Oando has come out to say, look, they are not in that retail space alone. They are no more there because they have given out that space and have sold it to NOE and Helios Group in partnership with NNPC. So the only thing that you will see in that space is when you have a big player, an indigenous player, then it will begin to look at the crude oil supply side. So instead of them taking those crude outside, like to their major companies abroad, like Ajib Oil, or that is any oil that is now taken over by Oando, we could see some of those products comes into our local refinery because it's a local company. So we'll see that synergy between the Oando and maybe Dangote refinery or Edo petrochemical refinery. So that's the good news. And with that, then you have enough of refined petroleum product to pump into the market. But I think in the retail, and Oando seems to have exited that space.
All right. So, I mean, that crude seems to be what we're looking for now in the country. And, well, as you said, we hope there'll be more collaboration, the IOCs and then the indigenous refiners, and then we would see more results. But let's look at the wider market now. We've seen the NGX really struggle since last week. A lot of profit taking. Myself and Will have been talking about it, and we just say, is it because it's summer? So people are selling off for holiday expenses, forthcoming school fees, and all of that. And we wonder if this will end when the summer is over.
Hey, Ini, thank God you've been in the market for a while. You follow this market. This is always a season whereby you see those in terms of low activities, things for profit taking, in terms of you talk about school fees, you talk about summer. But we keep saying about these things, but I don't think they're really so big an impact on the market like that, because when you're looking at school fees, you're looking at summer, you're looking at retail investors, and sometimes you're not looking at the high net investors. So definitely that may play a part. But I think one is majorly playing a part in the market now. There's no trigger. When I mean there's no trigger, there's no any sensational news. You see what happened to Oando. Before that news trickled into the market, at the point it was more or less like even Oando is going to go on red. But immediately that news came out, it sparked it up to a full beat. And so now in the market now, there's no any major news that can drive equity, especially if you look at the key drivers of the equity market. It's normally the financial sector. The half-year results have not been approved by the CBN. They are still compiling their right issue. Some of them are still in the market. So investors are looking at all this. And then when you look at the larger economy in itself, there's not so much exciting news about it. Some of the companies that have released their results, that news have not excited the market. So the market needs a trigger in terms of the results that will excite the market, especially from the financial sector. Then that will begin to galvanize the market into the kind of activities that you want to see. I think at this moment, what investors are looking at, they're looking at fundamentals, they're looking at value, and then those that are speculators are looking at profit taking. So these three factors are really playing into the market. For long-term investors, they are looking at value and fundamental. For profit taking, they are looking at price entries and price exit points. So you continue to see those activities. And unfortunately, it seems that the profit taking seems to have more intense of activities than those that are the value investor. So definitely those changes will continue to come into the market. But when the trigger come in terms of those earnings season, you could see a tilt. If like I say, if some of these companies that will bring in this report have not been pricing, but as it stands now, it doesn't seem like they have been pricing.
Mr. Mama, that was 3 ifs. So that's a very big if that you have put there. But insurance is one interesting counter. So from being a penny stock to, just catching the fire. And even when we see the parents of financial services, that's banking, drop, like yesterday, they were down almost 1%. We still saw insurance recording some gains.
Yeah, like I said, that's the speculator space. The price in those spaces are a recession for NEM insurance, Crusader insurance, and ICO insurance. You see that most of those stocks in that sectors are really, really penny stocks. And so what you're saying, most speculators are in that space. You buy for 30 kobo, 45 kobo, you make a movement of just 5 kobo, you trade in. So there's a lot of volatility in that space now. And that will continue, like I said, until we have a trigger that comes into the market and then shift attention from that penny state into the real sector of the market. So definitely what we are looking at, I told you about investors looking at price entry and price exit. The insurance sector seems to be a bargain space when you are looking at price entry, price exit, profitability in terms of price movement, that in terms of price of those stocks. Again, all these are adding up for you to see the kind of result that you are seeing in that sector. But when you look at in terms of the fundamentals of those stocks in this sector, you and I, we agree that they have not really ticked. But in terms of market activities for profit taking, that space is where investors are really playing.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mukhtar Mohammed, for sharing your time with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so just to give you a little bit of breakdown of the numbers that we just talked about yesterday, the market closed in the red again, 0.12%. Equity cap has dropped from 55 trillion to 54, almost 55, but still 54 now. the market lost 64.98 billion yesterday. That's what reduced that 55 to 54 trillion. And there you see the activity chart was mostly red, and then the sectors most interesting. Banking closed almost 1% in the red. Consumer goods also in the red. Industrial has remained unchanged since Dangote Cement moved the market 2 days ago. Insurance, we just talked about there, closed in the positive 0.44%. Oil and gas, well, I guess Oando hasn't, maybe the news hasn't moved investors enough, trigger some positive moves there. So we see it close in the red yesterday. But Oando was part of the top trades yesterday, and unexpectedly with such a huge news that they shared at the close of trade yesterday. Let's take a break now. When we come back, we look at investment opportunities outside the market, inside the real sector. That'll be after the break. Just stay with us. Welcome back to watching Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. Now, we've talked about the markets, the financial market. Let's talk about the real sector, talking about foreign direct investment. And one would ask, should we be talking about attracting investors into the country at this time? Investors that were here or are here, how well have we treated them? If we talk about more, bringing new ones. Well, LCCI has a duty to retain not just their members, but also make the investment climate attractive for investors, both the domestic and the international, the foreign investors. So let's see how much work they have done and perhaps the plans that they have with the Director General of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Ms. Chinyere Almona, joins us virtually from Lagos. Ms. Almona, good morning and thank you for your time.
Good morning, Ini, and thanks for having me.
Great. So at this time, I wonder if you think Nigeria should be talking about attracting investors when we know what even existing investors are going through. We've seen a number of multinationals leave the country, and we still see the challenges in the investment space in the country. I wonder what grounds we should be talking about attracting investors into the country at this time.
Thank you, Ini. You're absolutely right that over the years we haven't been able to retain our investors because we've heard the stories of all the investors leaving. But if you think about it, foreign direct investment into Nigeria has been on a decline. The foreign direct investment figures for Africa shows that Egypt is leading with about $11 billion. And South Africa is following very closely behind with about $9 billion. Ironically, you and I will agree that Nigeria is richer in investment opportunities than some of these countries. But creating the right environment is what we need to do for both the local investors and foreign investors. And at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we're trying to change the narrative. We're trying to change the story and highlight the areas where there are investment opportunities, but also highlight the areas where we need to improve and have the regulators come talk to us about some of these issues. And that's the purpose of the International Business Conference and Expo tagged Invest Nigeria.
Yeah, but Ms. Almona, we have a lot of conferences. We just talked now, CIBN is also having its conference next month. But what happens after the conference? What can we count as the gains of, all the conferences we've been having?
So last year, we initiated this conference. And for us, because we're Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we want a conference that is practical. We did this conference in partnership with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment as a platform, a key investment platform to showcase investment opportunities in Nigeria to the global center. And you're right, sometimes we have these events and conferences and it becomes a talk show. But for us here on this platform, the Invest Nigeria platform, we want real action. We want government to come talk to investors about investment opportunities in their states, in different sectors. So last year we had like about 36 countries in attendance. There were lots of state governments on ground. There were business-to-business sessions on agriculture, infrastructure, manufacturing. But the actual signing of MOUs also happened, because as there's a handshake, we want to see it move from talk to action. And that's why this investment platform, this Invest Nigeria conference, is very important. It's critical for every business owner and state governments to attend.
So maybe you could tell us some of the, you said MOUs were signed last year. Perhaps has any of them grown into real businesses, factories, or anything like that?
So one of the highlights of this year's event is that the state governments that were at the last year event will be able to talk to us about these successes. And when your opening statement was about the regulatory environment and we being able to sustain the investment that we get. So, and also an element of this conference is having the regulatory session where regulatory agencies can outline their operations and what businesses need to understand about business regulatory framework. But by and large, you will have, and I hope you'll be there, Amy, because you have the governments who were there last year, some of those who closed some deals to talk to us on how they have fared in the last 1 year.
I'll try to be there because, if you have it when I'm having a live show, I may not be able to be there, but I know I will see the visuals at the end of the day and I will listen to those speeches. But tell us what sectors are in focus, what areas of business seems, the most sellable at this time in the midst of the not so friendly investment climate?
So agriculture is a big one because we know what the state of food security is today. So agriculture, thinking about how do we use technology in agriculture, that's a big investment opportunity. Also infrastructure, we've at the organized private sector, we've always talked about lack of infrastructure. So having the right infrastructure in place, road, even power, utilities, all of these, those are areas that are critical for investment. Manufacturing, that's the industrial sector, is also ripe for investment. So you have the ICT as well, technology. You have technology enabling a lot of things. So you have health tech, edutech, agri-tech, fintech. So technology is a big sector for investments.
Interesting you talked about agriculture because even the business survey from the central bank hinges the optimism from that survey on agriculture. Now, the sad thing is these days in Nigeria, you can hardly talk about agriculture without talking about insecurity. Just yesterday in Niger State, we heard the story of, I think 7 or 9 farmers were actually just killed. And we do not know a reason for that. So I wonder how you hope to approach it, the issue of insecurity that's plaguing the agricultural sector.
So we can't shy away from the problems that we have. Insecurity is a big problem, and at the chamber we keep talking about it. And I like to think that sometimes some of our challenges provide opportunities. So this is an area that also provides an opportunity for investors to come in and support. But then when you think about agriculture and what we need to do differently, it's clear that the issues of the herdsmen still torment farmers. The roads aren't right for farmers to move their goods from the farm to the market. There isn't sufficient infrastructure for processing agricultural produce or preserving. So there's a high level of post-harvest losses. So these are all areas that we need to focus on and see how we can attract investment in these areas because we need to deal with it. We can't shy away from it.
So I'm sure that this will be part of either the panel or the keynote speeches, for your event. I'm sure that's factored in.
It will be because the state governments need to share with the investors how they're going to deal with this issue. And also, we're having a good panel for foreign institutions who are interested in some of these areas to come and ask questions, but also answer questions on why they're looking in this area, why are they still here, and why they're investing in Nigeria. So it's a mix of both the state governments, the investors, and the foreign investors as well. It will be a great event, and I really encourage everybody to be there on Tuesday, 27th. And 28th at the Co Hotel and Suites. And it's not just in the morning, it's the whole day. So you can take time out and join us.
Okay, thank you for the invitation, the public invitation. I'll try to be there at least one of those days. But thank you so much for your time. I do know that you were supposed to be right here in the studio, but I mean, that's another area disturbing us. Yes, I mean, flights and traveling in Nigeria, you cannot keep to time. But we thank God that we are able to have you virtually on the program. Thank you so much, Ms. Chinua Mona, for your time, and we wish you the best as you prepare for your conference.
Thank you, Ini. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, so that's the much we can take on this side of Sunrise Daily, doing business for just about 30 minutes. We head back to the studio, Sunrise Daily studio, for more conversations. Do remember to join me. It's you and I today, 1 p.m., so don't leave me alone. Let's do business for 55 minutes during Business Incorporated. That'll be at 1 p.m. We'll do the markets and other conversations are waiting you right there. Talking about infrastructure, Ms. Almona was talking about infrastructure. We'll talk about infrastructure financing, in the afternoon. That's 1 p.m. I'll see you then.